On my birthday, my daughter's mother-in-law handed her a maid's uniform, and my son-in-law laughed. Perfect. She'll need it at home. My daughter's hands shook. Her eyes went glassy. That was the moment I knew the night would not end the way they expected. My name is Maribel Thorne. I am 66. The restaurant had been Tyler's idea, or at least that is what Evelyn insisted. A family dinner, she called it, even though I could see how tense she was from the moment she walked in. Her shoulders were tight, her smile too quick, her eyes darting toward Janice every few seconds, as if checking whether she was doing something wrong. Janice sat across from her, stiff as carved stone, wearing pearls that looked like they weighed as much as her judgment. She had brought one gift, just one, and placed it in the center of the table like it was some sacred offering. When dessert plates were cleared, she pushed the box toward Evelyn with a little flourish. "Go on, sweetie. Open it." Evelyn's fingers trembled against the ribbon. I could feel something sour building in my chest. A feeling I had known too well years ago when people mistook kindness for weakness. She lifted the lid. Silence swallowed the table. Inside was a Navy maid's uniform, pressed so crisply it might have been starched with malice. A white apron lay folded on top. The name Evelyn was embroidered across the chest in a script too cheerful for what it intended. Janice's smile sharpened. Every good wife should look presentable while doing her chores. Tyler let out a laugh, low and satisfied. Perfect. She will need this at home. My daughter froze. Breath hitched, then tears slipped down her cheeks. She tried to smile, tried to pretend it was a joke, but the hurt was too quick, too raw. That was when I stood up. I did not raise my voice again. I did not make a scene. I simply reached into my bag, set a small velvet box on the table, and slid it toward Evelyn. "My amour," I said softly. "Now open mine." Janice's smirk faltered. Tyler straightened, confused. Evelyn looked at me like she was searching for air. She opened the lid. Their faces changed before she even reached the first page. And that was the moment everything began to shift quietly, but decisively, toward the life my daughter would eventually have to choose. Evelyn lifted her head, tears still clinging to her lashes. "Mom, what is this?" I placed my hand over hers, steady and sure, ready to tell her the truth she had not known she needed, and ready to return for the first time in years to the woman I used to be. Evelyn kept staring at the papers like they were written in another language. I could see her lips moving, tracing each line. Before she could speak again, the waiter approached. But one look at our faces made him back away quietly. Tyler shot him an annoyed glance, then turned that same sharpness toward me. "What is this, Maribel?" he asked. I didn't answer. Not yet, because the truth inside that box didn't start tonight. It started decades ago. I lost my husband when I was 27. One truck, one patch of black ice on Highway 26, and suddenly, I was alone with a toddler, and rent I didn't know how to cover. Back then, Evelyn used to cling to my leg whenever I tried to leave for work. "Mommy, don't go," she'd whisper. "I have to, baby. We need the hours." Those years shaped me nights wiping tables at a diner, mornings stocking shelves at a corner store in East Portland, afternoons taking Evelyn to the library because it was the only place warm and free. We moved 3 times in those early years, each apartment a little smaller, each winter a little harder. My mother would visit and whisper warnings I didn't want to hear. A woman who depends on a man loses everything when he decides she's not useful. She knew from experience. My father controlled everything: the bank accounts, the keys, the friends she was allowed to keep. I watched her shrink year by year, until she was only a whisper of who she'd been. So when Evelyn was born, I promised something silently as I held her. She would never be trapped the way my mother was. She would stand tall, even if the world tried to bend her. Evelyn finally lifted her eyes to mine at the table, voice trembling. "Mom, why would you do all this?" I covered her hand gently, because I learned early what happens when a woman has no place of her own. And tonight, she needed to understand she'd never be without one again. Evelyn held the papers in her lap, still shaken. Tyler leaned back in his chair like he owned the table. "This is ridiculous," he said. "My family already takes care of us. We don't need whatever this is." His voice pulled me straight into the past, into the moment the cracks first started. Evelyn met Tyler at Portland State. She came home one afternoon glowing. "He's smart, Mom, and funny, and he listens." I wanted to believe her. I really did. I met him 2 weeks later. He shook my hand firmly, too firmly, while his eyes scanned my thrifted coat. "Nice place you have," he said. Looking around my little apartment like it was a motel lobby, Evelyn jumped in. "Mom worked 2 jobs for years," Tyler cut her off with a laugh. "Well, everyone works hard. My mom says people exaggerate." Janice arrived the next month, unannounced, sweeping into my living room like she expected applause. She glanced at my mismatched cups. "Oh," she said, "I didn't realize you decorated yourself." Evelyn flushed. "Mom likes things simple." Janice smiled tightly. "Of course. Some people have different standards." Tyler laughed with her, like they shared a secret joke. When they left, Evelyn hugged me. "They're just adjusting. Mom, different personalities. It doesn't mean anything." I cupped her face. "Sweetheart, people show you who they are early." She pulled away gently. "Please don't judge them yet. Tyler's the best thing that's happened to me." But each visit piled on another little comment. "Evelyn should dress more maturely. She talks too softly. She's lucky someone like Tyler found her." I watched her shrink a little each time. Back at the birthday table, Tyler stabbed a finger at the documents. "Tell her, Evelyn, we don't hide things in our family." Evelyn's lips pressed together the same way they had when she defended him months ago, but this time, she didn't say a word. Tyler kept staring at the papers like he expected the words to rearrange themselves. Janice's eyes were sharp, calculating. Evelyn stayed quiet, gripping the edges of the box as if it were the only solid thing in the room. I remembered the day I started all of this. It was 2 years before tonight. I was sitting at my sister Lorraine's kitchen table in Gresham, watching her fold clothes into plastic bags. She'd been married for 22 years. Her husband walked out and left her with nothing. Not a house, not a bank account, not even the car she drove their children in. He said everything's in his name, she whispered. And he's right. I have nowhere to go. I held her shaking hands. "You can stay with me," she laughed. "Broken. Your place barely fits you." That night, I went home and stared at my reflection for a long time. I saw my mother in my own tired eyes, another woman who lost everything because she trusted the wrong man. The next morning, I found a small law office downtown. The lawyer, a calm man named Harrow, listened carefully. "So you want a property placed solely in your daughter's name?" he said. "Yes. And protections, ensuring no spouse can claim it later." "Yes." He nodded slowly. "Then we start with a plan." I worked extra shifts, sold furniture, sold the pearls my mother left me, ate canned soup for months. Every dollar went to one purpose: give Evelyn a place no one could take away. Back at the birthday table, Tyler finally spoke. "So you planned this behind our backs?" I met his stare without blinking. "I planned this long before you were in her life." Evelyn's breath caught. She didn't know how much I'd sacrificed, not yet. Evelyn kept her eyes on the papers, but her hands were shaking. Tyler leaned closer to her, lowering his voice just enough for the two of us to hear. "You should have told me your mother was doing things behind my back." I answered before Evelyn could. She didn't know. I made sure she didn't. Evelyn swallowed hard, and the way her shoulders tightened pulled me straight into the months after their wedding, the months when I watched her slip further and further away. It started small. A call unanswered. A canceled visit. A hurried excuse. Tyler and I already have plans tonight. Mom? Rain check, Mom. I can't stay long. Janice needs me to help organize her dining room. She said it like it made sense, like it wasn't strange at all. When she did come over, she looked thinner, quieter. I remember one afternoon in particular. She was sitting at my kitchen counter, twisting her wedding ring around her finger. Tyler wants us to combine bank accounts, she said. He says married couples shouldn't hide money from each other. That's your choice. I told her, but make sure you know where the money is going. She hesitated. He already moved my savings. He said it's easier if everything's together. A heaviness settled in my chest. 2 weeks later, she showed up wearing a beige sweater that drained all the color from her face. She used to love reds, florals, anything lively. Why are you dressed like that, I asked. She gave a tiny smile. Tyler thinks bright colors look childish. Janice agrees. I stared at her. Do you agree? Her smile faltered. It's just easier this way. The changes kept stacking. Tyler began texting her constantly when she was with me. Where are you? How long will you be? Send a picture. One evening, her phone buzzed 5 times while she was slicing apples for tea. Her hands shook every time she reached for it. Evelyn, I said gently, that's not normal. She looked down. He just wants to know I'm safe. By late autumn, she visited less and less. Some nights I sat alone in my living room staring at the empty chair she always used to sit in, at the birthday table tonight. As she clutched those documents, I saw all those months in her trembling fingers. The girl I raised was fading, inch by inch. And she didn't even realize how far she'd gone. Tyler kept muttering under his breath. But the anger rolling off him only reminded me why I had done all of this long before tonight. The house became real on a rainy Tuesday morning. I sat across from Mr. Harrow again, my lawyer, signing page after page. He watched me carefully, making sure I understood every line. You're certain you want the deed in your daughter's name only, he asked. Yes, and the protective clause, the one blocking any spouse from claiming rights. Keep it exactly as we discussed. He tapped his pen thoughtfully. Most people don't plan this far ahead. I learned the cost of not planning. My voice came out steadier than I felt. He nodded and slid the final document toward me. When I signed, a strange calm settled over me. I wasn't rich, and this little 2-bedroom craftsman in Selwood wasn't much creaking floors. A small kitchen, a backyard with more mud than grass. But it was safe, and it was hers. I visited the house the next day with the keys in my pocket. The realtor, a young woman with kind eyes, handed them to me gently. It's a solid home, she said, perfect for someone starting over. I didn't explain. I just ran my fingers across the wooden banister, imagining Evelyn breathing without fear inside these walls. When I came home, I opened the navy velvet box I'd bought months earlier. Inside, I placed the deed, the protective documents, and a spare key tied with a ribbon. I closed the lid slowly. Not yet, I told myself. She's not ready yet. But the more Evelyn drifted from me, the more that box felt like a lifeline waiting for the right moment. One evening, after she canceled yet another visit, I held the velvet box in my lap. My phone screen lit up with her message. Mom, I'm sorry. I can't leave the house tonight. Tyler wants me home. I whispered to the empty room. You have a home. You just don't know it yet. At the birthday dinner, when Tyler lifted his chin like he owned my daughter, I knew the moment had finally come. The box I had guarded for so long was ready to be opened, and her life was about to change. Evelyn's tears were still falling when I pushed the navy velvet box toward her. Tyler's laugh had finally died. replaced by a tight scowl he couldn't hide. Evelyn, don't touch that. Janice snapped. Your mother's trying to make a scene. I kept my voice steady. She can decide that for herself. Evelyn's fingers hovered over the lid. Tyler leaned in, jaw clenched. You're embarrassing her. Maribel, put it away. I didn't move at all. Instead, I nodded at my daughter. Go on, sweetheart. She opened the box. The moment the documents came into view, Tyler froze. Janice blinked twice, then leaned closer, her voice incredulous. What? What is this? Evelyn lifted the deed with shaking hands. Her lips parted, barely forming sound. This is my name. Yes, I said softly. That house is yours. Tyler snatched a page out of her hand. A restrictive clause, Maribel. You've got to be kidding. To be. This blocks spouses from taking something that doesn't belong to them, I said. His eyes snapped to me. You planned this behind my back. I planned this before you were in her life. Janice pushed her chair back so sharply it scraped the floor. You had no right. No right to undermine our family like this. Your family, I said calmly, gave my daughter a maid's uniform for my birthday. Evelyn let out a quiet sob. Mom, I didn't know. I didn't know any of this. I know, I whispered. Tyler shoved the papers back toward her. You're not moving anywhere. We're staying exactly where we are. And you're not running back to your mother every time she manipulates you. Evelyn flinched at the word manipulates. I leaned forward, keeping my eyes on her. Not him. Evelyn, you don't have to decide anything right now. I just want you to know you have a place. Janice cut in sharply. She has a place with her husband. Something in Evelyn broke then. Her voice came out small, trembling. Mom, can I come home tonight? Just for tonight. Tyler's head whipped toward her. Absolutely not. She finally pulled her hand out of his grip. I stood and extended mine to her instead, steady, unafraid. Evelyn rose. She didn't look at Tyler or his mother. She just gathered the papers, held the key tight in her fist, and stepped to my side. And as we walked out of that restaurant together, I knew this was the beginning of the life she had been denied for far too long. Evelyn moved into the Selwood house the same night. She didn't pack anything, just clutched the deed and the key like they were the first real possessions she'd had in months. I made tea while she sat at my kitchen table, staring at her phone buzzing nonstop. The first message came from Tyler. You humiliated me. Come home now. Then another. If you walk away, you're destroying this marriage. Then minutes later, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. We can fix this. Just talk to me. Evelyn winced every time his name lit up the screen. Mom, he won't stop, she whispered. Block him for the night. I can't. He'll get worse. As if on cue, her phone rang again. When she didn't answer, he called me instead. Put her on. He snapped the moment I picked up. You're poisoning her against me. I didn't engage. Evelyn's safe. That's all you need to know. You're making a mistake. His voice cracked anger, struggling with fear. She's my wife. Not tonight, I said, and hung up. The next morning, Janice showed up at my door. She didn't even say hello, just barged in and planted herself in my living room. This is unnecessary, she said sharply. You've blown everything out of proportion. Evelyn stepped out from the hallway, eyes swollen from crying. Janice softened instantly. Sweetie, your husband is devastated. You can come home. We'll talk it out as a family. Evelyn's voice was barely above a whisper. I don't feel safe. Janice blinked. Then her expression hardened. You're being dramatic. I stepped between them. This conversation is over. That afternoon, I drove Evelyn to Mr. Harrow's office. He laid out the separation steps calmly, without pressure. Evelyn listened, clutching the pen so tightly her knuckles whitened. When he slid the first set of papers toward her, she hesitated only once. Mom, stay with me, she whispered. I'm right here. She signed her name. It wasn't strength yet. but it was the first step toward finding it. And by the time we left the office, the life she'd been clinging to had finally, completely broken open. By spring, the Selwood house no longer felt like a shelter, it felt like Evelyn's. The first time I saw her paintbrushes spread across the dining table again, I knew something inside her had finally unclenched. "I forgot I liked this," she said, dipping a brush into blue paint. "Tyler always said it was a waste of time." I sat beside her. "It looks like joy to me." She smiled, really smiled for the first time in months. Her days filled up quickly. Therapy twice a week. A new job at the clinic near OHSU, where her supervisor told her on the first day, "We're glad to have you." She came home exhausted but proud. And every night she'd call me to tell me something small and good. Meanwhile, Tyler's calls dwindled. His anger had burned too hot, too fast. Word reached us eventually he'd been written up at work for yelling at a coworker, and his own family had started avoiding the subject of the marriage entirely. Janice sent one final message to Evelyn, long and rambling, blaming me, blaming her, blaming outsiders for ruining everything. Evelyn read it once, exhaled slowly, and deleted it. She never listened. She murmured. She never wanted to. I said, one evening, she came over with 2 mugs of tea and sat beside me on the couch. "Mom," she said softly, "I used to think staying was strength. Now I know leaving took more." I squeezed her hand. "You didn't leave. You chose yourself." Her eyes shone not with tears this time, but with clarity. "It wasn't the house." "Was it?" she whispered. "It was knowing I wasn't trapped." I nodded. "Freedom starts with knowing you have a door, even before you walk through it." She rested her head on my shoulder, warm and steady. The girl I'd raised was coming back to herself, one breath at a time. And as we sat there, the quiet felt full for once, full of possibility. If you want more stories like this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.